In this video, we're going to start working on our stream create form. And the first thing we have to do is make sure that we can see the stream create component on our screen. At present, we are just at localhost 3000, which by default always shows the stream list. So I'm going to navigate over to localhost 3000 /streams/new, like so. And then I should see stream create appear on the screen. Remember, this only works because we had set up our React router inside of our app component right here. So here's the route where we gave a path of stream/new. We said that whenever a user went to that route, we wanted to show the component stream create. And that's exactly what's happening right now. So now that we can see this component on the screen, I'm going to find it inside of my code editor. In the components directory, I'll find the streams folder, and then I'll open up the stream create file. All right, so we're going to be doing a lot of code, or writing a lot of code inside of here to show our form and make use of Redux form as well. Now, the first thing I want to do inside of here is refactor this functional component over to a class-based component. The reason that we're going to make a class-based component is that we're going to eventually want to have a bunch of helper methods so we can kind of better organize our code inside of here. All right, so I'm going to delete that first line and say stream create extends react.component. I'll then open up my curly brace up there. I'll put in my render method, and it's going to just wrap the return statement, and then I'm going to delete the semicolon at the end of the class declaration. So if I now save this, I should be able to flip back over and still see stream create appear on the screen. All right, next up, we're going to import in Redux form. At the top, I'm going to import two helpers or two properties from Redux form itself. The first one is field with a capital F, and then the second is Redux form with a lowercase r from Redux-form. Now you'll notice that these things have different capitalization. Field has a capital F, Redux form is a lowercase r. The reason for this is that field is supposed to be a React component. So this is going to be a component that we are going to eventually show on the screen. On the other hand, Redux form right here is a function. This function is going to essentially have the exact same functionality as the connect function that we used from the React Redux library. The Redux form function is essentially what's going to make sure that we can call some action creator and get some form data into our component. And remember that all happens automatically. So the first thing we're going to do is take this Redux form function and hook it up to our component down here at the very bottom. Again, Redux form, very similar nature to connect. So similar in nature that it even has an identical syntax when we make use of it. So in front of stream create, I'm going to write out Redux form. I'm going to put in one set of parentheses, and then I'll put a second set of parentheses around stream create. So remember, the syntax here is that Redux form is going to return a function, and we immediately call that function with stream create. Now we're going to pass Redux form right here an object for some configuration. Unlike the connect function, which takes separate arguments into it, Redux form instead receives a single object, and we put a bunch of configuration into that object. At present, there's only one piece of configuration we have to put in here. I'm going to say form, and then I'm going to provide a name for this form as a string. The name of this form is going to be generally whatever the purpose of the form is. You'll see what the purpose of this name is in just a minute. So for right now, I'll just put in a name of something like stream create. It can be lowercase, capitalized, whatever you want it to be, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so now that we have hooked up Redux form, this component is now going to be passed a ton of props, a ton of additional props that it was not being passed before. Just to get a better handle on what's going on, let's add in a console log statement inside the render method, and I'm going to console log this.props. I'll then flip back over. If you see any errors or warnings like this, again, you're going to see those errors or warnings every now and then when you are making use of the Google API stuff. If you see those errors and warnings, totally fine. You can ignore them altogether. All right, so I'm going to refresh the page, and then I should see this console log right here of my props object. So this is our props object that is going into that form. Notice how there are a tremendous number of properties on that props object now. Before, we probably only had a handful. Now we have a tremendous number of props that are showing up thanks to that Redux form helper. All the props that you see right here are part of the automatic system that's going to be used to essentially get form values into an element and then get changes back out and update that Redux form reducer. So it's essentially up to you and me to kind of pick through this list of props right here and find the different props that are relevant to us and make use of them to actually build out our form. All right, so I'm going to flip back over. I'm going to remove that console log. And then I'm going to turn this return statement right here into a multi-line JSX expression. So I'll put in a set of parentheses like so. I'm going to return a form element. And inside of here, I'm going to put together something called a field. Now this field component right here has been imported from Redux form at the top. So this is a component that was not created by us. We make use of this field component anytime that we want to show as you might guess, a field to the user. A field is essentially some type of input. It can be a checkbox, or a radio button, or a text input, or a dropdown. Just about anything that is going to solicit input from a user. Whenever we place a field tag, we're always going to provide it some number of props. There's one prop that is always required, and that is the name prop. The name prop is not going to be like the title or the label of the field. The name is like the name of the property that this field is going to manage. The form that you and I are trying to put together is going to have a title and a description. So for our first input right here, the first input is going to be managing the title of our stream. So I'm going to give this first field right here a name of title, because I want this field to be responsible for handling the input from the user to indicate the title of the stream. I'll then put down a second field. So this second field right here is meant to handle this description input right here. So I'm going to give this one a name of description, like so. Now, whenever you start making use of Redux form, there are a couple of error messages that you're probably going to see really frequently. So I want to show you one of those error messages right now. We're going to save this, and then we're going to flip back over to our application and just see what happens. So you're going to see this error message right here. It says expected a string or a class function but got undefined. So what's going on here? Well, essentially, when we show this field component, the field itself has no idea how to render some type of input element on the screen. So a field doesn't know how to show a text input. It doesn't actually know how to show a checkbox. It doesn't know how to show a dropdown or anything like that. A field is just a component that's going to be part of the system that's going to automatically handle all of the forms that you put together, but it individually is not responsible for actually getting anything to show up on the screen. Now let's take a quick pause right here before this section gets too long. We're going to come back to the next section and talk about how we can actually get a text input to appear when we are making use of a field element, as in both these cases right here. So quick pause, and I'll see you in just a minute.